History sometimes hides a story so strange that you pause and ask yourself if it really happened. A nearly blind young woman steps out of the shadows of Moscow in 1918 and tries to kill the most heavily guarded political figure in Russia. Many today imagine this scene as a dramatic myth, yet it unfolded in reality with cold precision. The most unsettling part is not the assassination attempt itself, but the way her life was cut short days later. The execution was quick and merciless. The effort to erase her name was even faster. A childhood marked by poverty and quiet rebellion. Fanny Kaplan was born on February 10, 1890, into a large Jewish family in the Russian Empire. Her father worked as a teacher, and 8 children depended on his income. It was a life without comfort. It was a life where small struggles shaped people early. She later took the name Fanny Kaplan, although some called her Dora. She grew up in a household where education mattered, but opportunities were thin. Kaplan studied at home, moved through early childhood with a mix of curiosity and frustration, and left for Odessa as a teenager to work as a milliner. At that time, Odessa was crowded with workers, sailors, political talk, and new ideas. Kaplan listened. She watched. She absorbed the mood of the era. It was easy to drift toward revolutionary groups because they promised justice and dignity. These ideas were intoxicating for a young woman who had only known hardship. Her involvement was not passive. In 1906, the authorities arrested her in Kiev after a bomb that she and her partner were preparing exploded by accident. She was only 16. The imperial court did not hesitate. She was sentenced to life at hard labor and transported deep into Siberia. The sentence crushed her youth and nearly destroyed her health. Inside the prisons of eastern Russia, inmates lived in dirt and frost. Kaplan lost most of her sight. The damage came slowly. Her vision blurred, then faded, then returned in fragments. She suffered migraines. She could barely function on some days. Yet she survived 11 years of this punishment, a fact that almost no one expected. The revolution opens the prison gates. In early 1917, the Russian Empire collapsed under the weight of war and hunger. The February Revolution pushed the imperial government aside, and the new authorities released thousands of political prisoners. Kaplan walked free on March 3, 1917. Her physical state was weak and unstable, but her beliefs were still sharp. Russia was transforming rapidly. Socialist parties competed for influence. Crowds demanded rights. Soldiers deserted the front. Everyone felt that history was turning in unpredictable directions. Kaplan returned to political life with the socialist revolutionaries and hoped that a democratic system would emerge from the chaos. The Bolshevik Party had different plans. Under the leadership of Vladimir Lenin, they seized power in the October Revolution, consolidated control over the Soviets, and quickly began suppressing rival groups. The Constituent Assembly, which was meant to represent the will of voters, was dissolved. The socialist revolutionaries, once allies, found themselves pushed outside the political arena. Kaplan felt betrayed. Her sacrifice in the Siberian camps had been made for a vision of a free and fair society. She believed that Lenin had turned the revolution into a rigid one-party system that denied the very ideals it claimed to defend. Her anger was not impulsive. It grew slowly. It shaped her thinking. It controlled her emotions. Eventually, it hardened into a decision: the plan to kill Lenin. By the summer of 1918, Kaplan had convinced herself that Lenin had become a traitor to the cause. Her eyesight was still damaged. Her health was fragile. Yet she believed she had a duty to act. She followed news of Lenin's movements and learned that he would speak at the hammer and sickle factory in Moscow on August 30th, 1918. Factories in that district were crowded and noisy. Security was present, but not overwhelming. People entered and exited constantly. Kaplan understood that this created an opening. She waited near the exit where Lenin would walk after his speech. Her Browning pistol felt heavy and awkward in her hand. Her vision was poor. Some historians later doubted that she could even see her target clearly. But Kaplan was not guided by perfect eyesight. She was guided by conviction. When Lenin left the building and approached his car, Kaplan called his name. He turned. She fired 3 times. 1 bullet passed through his coat. 2 struck him. 1 entered his neck, tore through part of his left lung, and lodged near his collarbone. The other embedded itself in his left shoulder. Lenin remained conscious but was in shock. His guards rushed him to the Kremlin. He refused to go to a hospital because he feared another attack. Doctors worked on him inside his residence, unable to remove the bullets. These injuries contributed to his long-term health decline and likely played a role in the strokes that eventually ended his life. The hunt and the interrogation. Chaos erupted around the factory. Soldiers and workers searched for the shooter. Witness accounts differed. Some said a suspicious woman was stopped immediately. Others claimed that children pointed her out. Either way, Kaplan was arrested within hours. During interrogation, she identified herself clearly. Her words were sharp and confident. She stated, "My name is Fanny Kaplan. Today, I shot Lenin. I did it on my own. I will not say who gave me the revolver. I had decided long ago that Lenin must die. I believe he betrayed the revolution." Her refusal to name accomplices frustrated the investigators. The authorities needed a broader conspiracy to justify harsher repression. Some evidence suggested involvement of a socialist revolutionary plot. A commander even testified that Kaplan had been chosen as the ideal person to carry out the attack. Nothing was proven fully. Much was assumed. The Bolsheviks were not looking for nuance. Her near blindness troubled some officials. Witnesses claimed they never saw her fire. Later examination suggested that at least 1 bullet removed from Lenin years after his death came from a different type of weapon, adding more confusion. The investigation lacked clarity. Still, Kaplan stood firm. She shielded anyone who might have helped her. A secretive and ruthless execution. The Bolsheviks decided that Kaplan could not remain alive. Her trial, if it existed at all, left no real record. What mattered was political convenience. On September 3, 1918, the Kremlin commandant P.D. Markov brought a group of Latvian Bolsheviks to execute her inside Alexander Garden. There was no public display, no formal ceremony, no legal process. They shot her in the back of the head. Her body did not receive a grave. The executioners placed the remains into a barrel and burned them. Yakov Sverdlov approved this method. He was the same official who had ordered the killing of the Tsar and his family earlier that year. Everything about Kaplan's final moments was designed to erase her existence completely. Rumors appeared later that she survived and lived in a Siberian camp under a false identity. These claims have no evidence. The destruction of her body left an opening for speculation, but the truth is far simpler. Kaplan was 28 when she died in a quiet corner of a Moscow park. Her life ended in smoke and ash. The legacy that refuses to disappear. Kaplan's execution created debate even inside the Soviet Union. Some believed she was physically incapable of firing the shots. Others suspected she was a scapegoat. A number of historians argue that the Bolsheviks were eager to blame the socialist revolutionaries regardless of facts. Yet her confession remains. Her motive remains. Her political anger remains. Lenin survived the attack, but was never fully healthy again. His strokes weakened him through his final years, and the government concealed his condition from the public. If Kaplan aimed to change history, she may have achieved more than she realized. She did not kill Lenin instantly, but she set in motion a decline that shaped the future of the Soviet state. Her story forces us to ask a difficult question. Was she a misguided extremist or a woman who believed she was saving the revolution from corruption? History does not answer clearly. It rarely does. What would you have thought if you lived in that era and saw power tightening around one man?